Cowboys were very busy over the last few days. They drafted former Boise State linebacker Leighton Vander Esch with the first-round pick on Thursday. Then they traded wide receiver Ryan Switzer to the Raiders and added wide receiver Tavon Austin in a trade with the Rams. And they could lose Jason Witten, too. He will reportedly retire this week. Jason Garrett is still trying to persuade Witten to play next season. We're joined by Fox NFL analyst Greg Jennings. Welcome, Greg. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great.
Did the Cowboys get better this weekend?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
well, tell me how, please.
The Cowboys got better this weekend. Number one, let's pause for a second. Jason Witten is still a Dallas Cowboy.
For the moment.
For the moment, but he's still a Dallas Cowboy. If you lose Jason Witten, that's a huge loss, but that's a big if. Because of the intangibles, not so much in the passing game, but to sure that offensive lineup. You have a tight end that is one of the better blocking tight ends in the game.
True.
You don't have to double. You don't have to chip with Jason Witten. He brings an intangible that a lot of tight ends nowadays lack. They're just one-dimensional. They're passing tight ends. But I believe getting Tavon Austin was a huge key to get the ball out of Dak Prescott's hands quick, often. He's more of a gadget guy. He's not a true wide receiver, but he's a guy that can eliminate the stress and the pressure of allowing Dak Prescott to be forced to throw the ball downfield every single play. You got a quick guy who can get shifty. You can get the ball in his hands. He can make a lot of plays with jet sweeps, end arounds, a lot of gadget plays that I like if Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan uses him correctly. Then on the defensive side...
Are you saying the Rams never used him correctly?
No. Sean McVay did a great job with utilizing most of the guys on that team. He had so many weapons.
He was so well for them, they traded for
he had so many weapons. Tavon Austin wasn't a huge integral part of what they were doing to be successful. But I think with Dallas... getting the ball out of Dak Prescott's hands early and having a guy that can make plays once the ball is in his hands and hit a home run, that's a huge pickup. On the defensive side of the ball, I think they addressed with their first-round draft pick in Vander Esch the injury possibilities that they have been going through with Sean Lee and even Jalen Smith. You shore up that position. Safety is a position that they didn't address, but if we're iffing with Jason Witten, but he's still a Dallas Cowboy, big if he's not, Earl Thomas is still out there, and you can still acquire Earl Thomas.
But if that's the case, if you wanted Earl Thomas, why not trade him within the draft when you have those draft picks? What makes you think Seattle wants to trade him now for a 2019 draft picks when you had the draft right there? This
question.
When I'm looking at Tavon Austin, now you know he only had one season with Sean McVay. Now this is the #1 scoring offense in football last year, and for some reason in 16 games he had 13 catches. Now you know he was there pre-Sean McVay, and he never was the guy everybody thought he was. And I agree with you, he's not a receiver.
Yes.
He's a little slot guy. Hope he can catch you 30, 35 balls. Special teams maybe get your punt return. But when I look at what they need and what in order to say, you know what, we want Dak to be the guy. You got to get him weapons. What quarterback you know that is successful don't have weapons? You go get a Vander Esch. How many touchdowns he gonna score? How is he gonna help your offense? You get Zeke back, and maybe you can control the clock. But you've been in offenses. You know, in order to be explosive, you better have explosive guys on the edge. If you don't have those to try to methodically drive the ball down the field, down in and down out, game in and game out, that's not a recipe for success. You got to be able to get the ball over the top.
Really, but that's not who Dak Prescott is.
He can't be.
That's not, even if he had a plethora of weapons, I don't see Dak Prescott being a guy that's going to drop back and just throw the ball everywhere around. That's not who the Dallas Cowboys want to be.
No, they would like to play action and then throw the ball over your head. But unfortunately, they ain't got nobody to get down the field in a hurry to get it.
Well, they picked up a receiver in Michael Gallup.
Michael Gallup, 3rd round. Had you heard of him before they picked him?
I had heard of him before, and I will give you my 2 cents on him.
All right.
Watching him, Dez Bryant, I'm not going to say he reminds me of Dez Bryant in a lot of ways once he gets the ball in his hand. The scary thing about him is he reminds me of Des Bryant when I watch him running routes. His inability to get out of the cuts and out of the breaks.
Because you can get away with that in the Mountain West Conference that he dominated at Colorado State, correct? So he was there in the 3rd round because he's a 3rd round pick. And DJ Moore was by far the most dominating receiver in this draft. The electrifying, game-breaker, life-changing receiver to me was DJ Moore. And the best deep threat was James Washington. And they let both slip right through their clutches because they fell in love with this kid, Leighton Vander Esch. He doesn't even sound like a football player to me, but whatever. I hope he can play. And I hope he does turn into Brian Urlacher because I didn't see it. I only watched one game on TV because I was watching Josh Allen against Boise State. And he caught my eye occasionally because he can run and he can cover for his size. And he's your basic 6'4", 256 or whatever he is. But the point is, the whole building fell in love with him. And you know how that goes. He might be the greatest young man ever, but is he the best football player available at number 19 in the 1st round? Because most draft analysts, if not every draft analyst, had him somewhere in the 2nd round. And Mel Kiper said it was a reach, and I said it was a reach right away. And you had these glaring needs because DJ Moore, if you have him in your locker room, you say, we have something nobody else has. We have a young receiver who is a game breaker. Like you became quickly, you became a weapon that nobody had for through your prime of your career. You could turn games around because you could just run by people. Well, they don't have anybody now who can run by. I don't think Michael Gallup will be running by anybody. Again, he's not going to be 2014 Des Bryant.
Skip, I want to ask you one thing, and you mentioned this, Greg. You said Jason Witten, going into year 15, is still on the roster. Are you going to wait till he tells you he retire after the draft and then go get a tight end? Because Goddard was sitting right there.
Okay.
What about his replacement?
Okay, but I think they were waiting for Goddard to fall in their laps.
Absolutely.
This is so uncharacteristic of plunger Jerry Jones, who made his fortune plunging in the oil fields, and he just sits there. We got Dallas Goedert. We got Dallas. Now you don't got Dallas Goedert because Howie Roseman of the rival Eagles went right up and swooped right up above you and knew exactly what was about to unfold and took him because he is the next Zach Ertz. And you've got the current Zach Ertz and the next Zach Ertz, and we got what's left of Jason Witten. That's it.
But this is why I like what Dallas has done, because in years past, we have seen Jerry Jones do some ridiculous things in the draft, giving up draft picks to move up. Like, this has always been his MO. This year, it's like they have a really good football team. Entering into the draft, the Dallas Cowboys football team is a really good football team who needs pieces. You don't need a big splash. You need important pieces. I don't know what they've seen in Vander Esch. I don't. Hopefully what they've seen and what they've scouted.
Well, he better.
What they've scouted lets them to know that he is worth the 1st round draft. That was possibly my only question in their entire draft, getting him in the 1st round. Other than that, I think they had a really solid draft. With Jason Witten still being in that building, the Dallas Cowboys did get better.
They did get Dalton Schultz out of Stanford, who's like a poor man's Zach Ertz, and that's what he is. That's not going to change life.
If I think Jerry might be got a little gun shy since
Maybe.
he gave up those 2 first rounders for Joey Galloway. He gave up those 2 first rounders for Roy Williams. He's like, I'm not giving up any more first round. But Skip, sometimes to make sure, I mean, that would have been a nice transition. You get Goddard. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, Witten stays another year. Now you got a nice little bridge that's like boom, boom, boom. You don't wait till the guy officially retires then to have a 2-year to go try to find it. If you look at the Patriots, what do, Skip? They start looking at replacements probably a year or 2 before anybody else think that they are looking for a replacement.
And I love what Greg is saying about Tavon Austin, but you're talking about the West Virginia Tavon Austin, not the Rams. Because I didn't see that guy at the Rams.
Greg is very optimistic about the
I
Cowboys.
like that.
Coming out in Cowboys colors, you know.
I campaign. What job you campaign for?
No, I'm not.
Greg just talked me into changing my grade from a C- to a C. I'll stick with a C.
A little light to the table.
Guess what? It'll be back a D again.
Should Baker Mayfield be the Browns starter week 1? We'll discuss that next.
For nearly 150 years, Continental has been making tires for the most demanding drivers. Tires you can count on, regardless of what the road throws at you.